For decades, intelligence agencies have pushed the boundaries of human capability, looking for ways to gain an advantage in espionage, warfare, and national security. While most people associate intelligence gathering with satellites, spies, and encrypted communications, a little-known chapter in history reveals a far more unusual method: astral projection. Declassified CIA documents prove that the agency invested significant time and resources into training individuals to leave their bodies and gather information through non-physical means. This wasn't just a fringe experiment. Millions of dollars were funneled into research programs, many of which produced results that shocked even hardened military officials. These experiments weren't conducted in secrecy just for the sake of curiosity. The Cold War drove US intelligence agencies to seek unconventional ways of gaining information without physical presence. If remote viewing and astral projection could provide a reliable means of spying on enemies, it would change the face of intelligence operations forever. Some of the results were so compelling that the CIA continued these studies for years, despite public skepticism. Subjects accurately described distant locations, classified military installations, and even celestial bodies with details that were later confirmed by physical exploration. But what exactly did they uncover? Next are 9 of the most important cases of CIA-backed astral projection experiments. 1. The Ingo Swann Jupiter experiment. One of the most extraordinary cases of remote viewing involved Ingo Swann, a well-known psychic researcher who was tasked with describing Jupiter in 1973, before NASA's Pioneer 10 spacecraft reached the planet. Swann, under controlled conditions at the Stanford Research Institute, SRI, detailed complex features of Jupiter that were unknown at the time. He described the planet's rings, its powerful atmospheric storms, and the presence of ammonia crystals. These observations were later confirmed when Pioneer 10 sent back data months later, leaving scientists stunned. What makes this case particularly fascinating is that Swann was not simply making vague predictions. His descriptions were highly specific and aligned with later scientific findings. If he had guessed randomly, his chances of being so accurate were astronomically low. The CIA took notice and continued funding research into astral projection, suspecting that it could be used for intelligence gathering. If a person could describe details about Jupiter from Earth, what else could they see? 2. The Axelrod moon-base viewing. Swann's abilities didn't just attract attention for planetary exploration. He was also reportedly used for spying on the moon. According to his own accounts, he was assigned a secret mission by an unknown government figure referred to as Mr. Axelrod. Swann claimed he was asked to use remote viewing to observe specific locations on the moon. What he saw was nothing short of shocking. He described artificial structures, possibly bases and humanoid figures moving within them. These figures, according to Swann, seemed aware of his presence. The moment they noticed him, he felt an overwhelming force pulling him back into his body, as if he had been ejected from the viewing session. If his claims are true, this would imply that the CIA or some other entity was actively investigating extraterrestrial structures on the moon. While there is no official confirmation of these findings, the fact that a government-backed psychic was tasked with viewing the moon raises serious questions about what might be out there. Was the CIA simply experimenting, or did they already suspect something was hidden on the lunar surface? 3. Pat Price's Soviet military base mission. Unlike Swann, who was mostly known for planetary viewing, Pat Price was considered one of the most successful remote viewers in espionage. In one of his most famous missions, Price was given coordinates for a location the CIA codenamed Mount Monastery. Without any prior knowledge, Price described a Soviet military base in precise detail. He accurately reported that the base contained 4 massive gantry cranes, nuclear warheads, and an underground facility hidden beneath the surface. His descriptions were so precise that when satellite imagery later confirmed his findings, intelligence officials were left stunned. Price had never been to Russia. He had no access to classified reconnaissance data, yet he was able to see deep inside a top-secret Soviet installation. His abilities led to multiple CIA-backed missions, but his life was cut short under mysterious circumstances. Some believe he was assassinated due to the sensitive nature of the information he had uncovered. 4. The Cuban Missile Crisis remote viewing test. The Cuban Missile Crisis was one of the most dangerous moments in human history, with the United States and the Soviet Union teetering on the edge of nuclear war. Intelligence gathering was crucial, But reconnaissance missions came with enormous risks. U-2 spy planes had already been shot down, and direct surveillance could escalate tensions further. Faced with these limitations, the CIA allegedly turned to an unconventional method: remote viewing. If psychic operatives could pinpoint the locations of Soviet missile sites in Cuba without setting foot on the island, it could provide an advantage without provoking military conflict. According to classified records, a group of remote viewers was assigned to describe the placement of nuclear weapons and military installations hidden throughout Cuba. These individuals, with no prior intelligence or geographical references, reportedly produced sketches and descriptions that closely matched later U-2 spy plane imagery. Their reports indicated not only the locations of missile silos, but also details about Soviet personnel, supply routes, and even conversations between officers at the sites. Some in the intelligence community were skeptical, but when aerial reconnaissance confirmed their findings, the CIA realized they might be dealing with a genuine intelligence tool. The implications were staggering. If these remote viewers could describe enemy movements from thousands of miles away, what else could they uncover? Some officials pushed for expanded testing, wondering if remote viewing could replace dangerous field missions altogether. However, due to the highly classified nature of these operations, the full extent of the results remains unknown. While the public narrative of the Cuban Missile Crisis focuses on diplomacy and military strategy, these secret psychic experiments suggest that the battle for intelligence was being fought on levels beyond conventional warfare. 5. The Mars Exploration Experiment. In 2017, a bombshell declassified document revealed that the CIA had conducted remote viewing experiments targeting not just locations on Earth, but Mars itself. In one of the most perplexing cases, a subject referred to in the documents only as Subject 10 was instructed to use astral projection to travel to the Red Planet. However, there was a specific condition. They were told to view Mars as it existed 1 million years in the past. What they reported was nothing short of extraordinary. The subject described massive pyramid-like structures scattered across the Martian landscape. These structures, according to their testimony, were not simple rock formations, but artificial buildings, potentially remnants of an ancient civilization. As the session continued, they detailed the presence of tall humanoid figures, beings that seemed to be in distress, as if they were facing a planetary catastrophe. The subject claimed to have witnessed enormous dust storms, seismic activity, and signs that these advanced beings were struggling to survive an extinction-level event. Some of them, they suggested, were attempting to flee to another location, possibly even Earth. This experiment raises profound questions. If the CIA was merely testing the capabilities of remote viewing, why did they specifically instruct the subject to view Mars in the past? Were they searching for evidence of extraterrestrial life, or did they already suspect that something was there? The document does not provide clear answers, but its existence confirms that high-ranking intelligence officials took the results seriously enough to classify them for decades. If nothing significant had been found, why keep it secret for so long? 6. The psychic warfare experiment at Fort Meade. While most remote viewing projects were focused on gathering intelligence, some CIA-backed operations explored the possibility of using psychic abilities as weapons. At Fort Meade, Maryland, a top-secret program was allegedly launched to train operatives in the art of psychic warfare. The goal? To develop techniques that could interfere with enemy technology, disrupt communications, and even influence the minds of high-ranking officials, all without setting foot on foreign soil. The research revolved around the idea that trained individuals could project their consciousness into strategic locations and manipulate physical systems through sheer mental force. Some experiments reportedly focused on disabling electronic equipment by disrupting electromagnetic fields, while others sought to implant specific thoughts or emotions into enemy decision-makers. One of the most controversial aspects of these trials involved attempts to remotely influence individuals to make decisions that would benefit US intelligence objectives. The effectiveness of these methods remains a mystery. Officially, the CIA never confirmed that psychic warfare was successfully weaponized. However, the fact that the project continued for years suggests that at least some results were promising. Whether or not these experiments yielded battlefield applications, they proved that the US government was willing to explore psychic phenomena not just for observation, but for active manipulation. If the CIA believed even for a moment that human consciousness could be weaponized, what does that say about the true potential of the mind? 7. The coordinate remote viewing Soviet embassy test of 1979. One of the most worrying experiments in the CIA's astral projection research involved spying on the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C. Unlike traditional espionage, where physical surveillance or informants were required, this operation sought to infiltrate enemy territory through purely psychic means. A select group of trained remote viewers was given precise coordinates of the embassy and asked to describe what they saw inside. The results sent shockwaves through the intelligence community. The remote viewers described the internal layout of the embassy with astonishing detail. They identified the placement of safes, classified document storage rooms, and even the movements of specific diplomats within the building. But what alarmed intelligence officials the most was their ability to perceive the contents of locked safes. Descriptions of sensitive documents that were later verified through conventional espionage methods. Some reports even suggest that the viewers were able to eavesdrop on private conversations between Soviet officials, despite having no physical presence inside the building. This experiment marked a turning point. If remote viewers could access the inner workings of a foreign embassy from miles away, how secure was any government installation? The Soviet Union was allegedly aware of these capabilities and took countermeasures, including shielding sensitive areas with lead and electromagnetic interference to block psychic intrusions. While these claims sound like science fiction, the sheer seriousness with which both US and Soviet intelligence treated them indicates that something remarkable was happening, something that neither side could fully explain, but neither was willing to ignore. 8. The Operation Sunstreak experiment. As remote viewing research progressed, the CIA merged multiple psychic espionage projects under a single umbrella, Operation Sunstreak. This initiative sought to refine remote viewing techniques and apply them to real-world intelligence missions. One of the most remarkable cases involved locating a missing US spy plane. The aircraft had disappeared over a hostile region, and traditional search efforts had failed. As a last resort, the CIA turned to remote viewers, instructing them to use astral projection to find the wreckage. In multiple independent sessions, the viewers described a location with specific geographic features, including a nearby body of water and a rocky terrain. When search teams followed the provided descriptions, they reportedly found the remains of the aircraft within the expected radius. Skeptics argue that this could have been coincidence, but intelligence officials saw it differently. The fact that multiple viewers, working separately, described the same location with no prior knowledge of the case suggested that there was more to remote viewing than mere guesswork. Operation Sunstreak continued until the early 1990s, with its findings remaining largely classified. If psychic espionage was ineffective, why did the government keep investing in it for decades? 9. Contacting non-human entities. Perhaps the most unsettling revelation from the CIA's remote viewing research is that their interest wasn't solely in gathering intelligence on humans. Some reports indicate that astral projection was used to make contact with non-human intelligences, beings that existed outside the visible spectrum of reality. Whether these entities were extraterrestrial, interdimensional, or something entirely different remains unknown, but the testimonies of those involved are deeply unsettling. One of the most well-documented cases involved a subject known as Viewer X, who was instructed to use astral projection to scan deep space for signs of intelligent life. What they described shocked intelligence officials. Viewer X reported encountering shadowy figures, observing Earth from an unknown location. These entities, according to the subject, were aware of human attempts to reach them and were even influencing human events in ways that couldn't be fully understood. Another subject described luminous beings who communicated through telepathy, warning of humanity's self-destructive path. While these accounts may sound like science fiction, the fact that the CIA actively explored these topics suggests that something warranted serious investigation. If these experiments produced nothing of value, why were they classified for decades? Were intelligence agencies simply testing the limits of the human mind? Or did they stumble upon something that defied all known scientific understanding? If you have made it this far, comment down below with the word 100% to confirm that you have received the knowledge from this video. For more interesting topics, make sure you watch the recommended video that you see on the screen right now. Thanks for watching.